Alaska is America's last frontier, a huge and diverse state that offers stunning scenery, amazing wildlife, and rich culture. Whether you're looking for nature, adventure, history, or art, you'll find it in Alaska. Hi everyone, you are watching Footprints Abroad, where I share the travel adventures around the world. In this video, I'm going to show you 20 of the best places to visit in Alaska, from glaciers and fjords, to mountains and tundra, to cities and towns. So buckle up and get ready for an epic road trip across this incredible state. Let's go! First stop, Denali National Park and Preserve. This is one of the most popular destinations in Alaska, and for good reason. It's home to Denali, the highest peak in North America at 20,310 feet. The park covers 6 million acres of wilderness where you can see grizzly bears, moose, caribou, wolves, and more. You can take a bus tour along the 92-mile park road, hike on one of the trails or go off-trail for a backcountry adventure, or take a sightseeing tour for an aerial view of the mountain and the glaciers. The best time to visit is from mid-May to mid-September, when the park is open and accessible. Next up, Glacier Bay National Park and Preserve. This is another stunning park that showcases Alaska's glacial wonders. You can see tidewater glaciers that calve huge chunks of ice into the sea, creating thunderous sounds and spectacular splashes. You can also spot marine wildlife like humpback whales, sea otters, seals, and sea lions. The park is best explored by boat or kayak, as there are no roads or trails within the park boundaries. You can join a day cruise from nearby towns like Gustavus or Hoona, or book a longer cruise that includes other parts of Southeast Alaska. Moving on to Kenai Fjords National Park. This is a park that combines glaciers and fjords with coastal forests and marine life. You can see Harding Icefield, one of the largest ice fields in the U.S., and its many outlet glaciers that carve deep valleys into the mountains. You can also see wildlife like orcas, puffins, bald eagles, and black bears. The park is accessible by road from Seward, where you can join a boat tour or a kayak trip to explore the fjords and glaciers up close. You can also hike to Exit Glacier or take a challenging trek to Harding Icefield. Next stop, Wrangell-St Elias National Park and Preserve. This is the largest national park in the U.S., covering over 13 million acres of land. It's also home to 9 of the 16 highest peaks in the country, including Mount St Elias at 18,008 feet. The park is a paradise for mountaineers, backpackers, rafters, and skiers who seek remote and rugged terrain. You can access the park by road from Chitina or Nebesna, or by air taxi from McCarthy or Glenallen. You can also visit historic mining towns like Kodiak and McCarthy, where you can learn about the park's rich history and culture. Continuing to Katmai National Park and Preserve. This is a park that features one of the most active volcanic landscapes in the world. You can see steaming vents, boiling mud pots, and lava flows at places like Valley of 10,000 Smokes and Novarupta Volcano. You can also see one of the largest concentrations of brown bears in the world at Brooks Falls, where they feast on salmon during the summer months. The park is only accessible by air or water from nearby towns like Kings Salmon or Homer. You can join a guided tour or a bear viewing trip to experience the park's natural wonders. Next up, Kodiak National Wildlife Refuge. This is a refuge that protects over 1 million acres of Kodiak Island's diverse habitats and wildlife. You can see Kodiak bears, the largest subspecies of brown bears in the world, as well as other animals like deer, foxes, otters, and eagles. You can also enjoy fishing, hunting, hiking, and camping in the refuge's scenic wilderness. The refuge is accessible by air or ferry from Anchorage or Homer. You can visit the refuge headquarters in Kodiak Town or book a lodge or a cabin in the remote areas of the refuge. Moving on to Seward, this is a charming coastal town that serves as a gateway to Kenai Fjords National Park and Resurrection Bay. You can see marine wildlife like whales, dolphins, sea lions, and seals on a boat tour or a kayak trip. You can also visit the Alaska Sea Life Center, a research and rehabilitation facility that showcases Alaska's aquatic animals. You can also hike to Exit Glacier or take a challenging trek to Harding Icefield. Seward is accessible by road, rail, or air from Anchorage. You can also join a cruise that stops at Seward and other ports in Southeast Alaska. Next stop, Homer. This is a quirky town that calls itself the halibut fishing capital of the world. You can try your luck at catching a big one on a fishing charter or a kayak fishing trip. You can also visit the Homer Spit, a 4.5-mile-long sandbar that extends into Katmai Bay. You can find shops, restaurants, art galleries, and campgrounds on the Spit. You can also take a water taxi or a ferry to explore the islands and coves of the bay. Homer is accessible by road or air from Anchorage. You can also join a cruise that stops at Homer and other ports in south-central Alaska. Continuing to Juneau. This is the state capital and the second largest city in Alaska. You can see Mendenhall Glacier, one of the most accessible glaciers in Alaska, and hike to Nugget Falls or Mendenhall Ice Caves. You can also take a tramway to Mount Roberts for panoramic views of the city and the Gastineau Channel. You can also visit the Alaska State Museum, the Juneau Douglas City Museum, and the Alaska State Capitol. Juneau is only accessible by air or water from other parts of Alaska or Canada. You can also join a cruise that stops at Juneau and other ports in Southeast Alaska. Next up, Ketchikan. This is a colorful town that claims to be the salmon capital of the world. You can see the world's largest collection of totem poles at places like Totem Bight State Park, Saxman Totem Park, and Totem Heritage Center. You can also see Creek Street, a historic boardwalk that was once a red light district. You can also visit the Southeast Alaska Discovery Center, the Tongass Historical Museum, and the Great Alaskan Lumberjack Show. Ketchikan is only accessible by air or water from other parts of Alaska or Canada. You can also join a cruise that stops at Ketchikan and other ports in Southeast Alaska. Moving on to Fairbanks. This is the largest city in interior Alaska and a hub for exploring the region's natural and cultural attractions. You can see the Northern Lights, one of the most spectacular phenomena in the world, from late August to early April. You can also visit the University of Alaska Museum of the North, the Morris Thompson Cultural and Visitors Center in Pioneer Park. Fairbanks is accessible by road, rail, or air from Anchorage or other parts of Alaska. You can also join a cruise that stops at Fairbanks and other ports in interior Alaska. Next stop, Anchorage. This is the largest city in Alaska and home to more than 40% of its population. It's a home base for skiers, hikers, and wildlife lovers, and a gateway to some of the most breathtaking wilderness in the world. You can explore the Chubut National Forest or visit one of 60 glaciers in just a short drive. You can also visit the Alaska Native Heritage Center, the Anchorage Museum, and the Alaska Zoo. Anchorage is accessible by road, rail, or air from other parts of Alaska or Canada. You can also join a cruise that stops at Anchorage and other ports in South Central Alaska. Continuing to Talkeetna. This is a quirky town that serves as a base camp for climbers who attempt to summit Denali. You can see Denali and other peaks from Talkeetna's Main Street or take a sightseeing tour for an aerial view of the mountain and the glaciers. You can also visit the Talkeetna Historical Society Museum, the Walter Harper Talkeetna Ranger Station, and the Nagley's General Store. Talkeetna is accessible by road, rail, or air from Anchorage or Fairbanks. You can also join a cruise that stops at Talkeetna and other ports in interior Alaska. Next up, Valdez. This is a scenic town that lies at the end of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline System. You can see Columbia Glacier, one of the largest tidewater glaciers in North America, and kayak or cruise among the icebergs in Prince William Sound. You can also visit the Valdez Museum and Historical Archive, the Maxine and Jessa Whitney Museum, and the Solomon Gulch Hatchery. Valdez is accessible by road or ferry from Anchorage or other parts of Alaska. You can also join a cruise that stops at Valdez and other ports in South Central Alaska. Next stop, the Alaska Highway. This is a historic road that connects Alaska with Canada and the lower 48 states. You can drive along this scenic route and see mountains, lakes, rivers, forests, and wildlife along the way. You can also visit historic sites like the Delta Junction Visitor Center, the Rika's Roadhouse, and the Tetlin National Wildlife Refuge. The Alaska Highway is accessible by road from Fairbanks or Tok. You can also join a tour that drives along the highway and stops at various attractions. Continuing to the Dalton Highway. This is a remote road that runs parallel to the Trans-Alaska pipeline system from Living Good to Prudhoe Bay. You can drive along this rugged route and see tundra, boreal forest, Brooks Range, and Arctic Ocean along the way. You can also visit places like the Yukon River Camp, the Arctic Circle Sign, the Coldfoot Camp, the Adigan Pass, and the Dead Horse Camp. The Dalton Highway is accessible by road from Fairbanks or Living Good. You can also join a tour that drives along the highway and stops at various attractions. Next up, the Seward Highway. This is a scenic road that connects Anchorage with Seward and Kenai Peninsula. You can drive along this beautiful route and see Turnagain Arm, Chugach Mountains, Kenai Lake, and Resurrection Bay along the way. You can also visit places like the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center, the Portage Glacier, the Elias Resort, the Exit Glacier, and the Kenai Fjords National Park. The Seward Highway is accessible by road from Anchorage or Seward. You can also join a tour that drives along the highway and stops at various attractions. Moving on to the Parks Highway. This is a scenic road that connects Anchorage with Fairbanks via Denali National Park and Preserve. You can drive along this stunning route and see Susitna River, Talkeetna Mountains, Denali, Nenana River, and Tanana River along the way. You can also visit places like the Talkeetna Town, the Denali Park Village, the Denali Visitor Center, and the Nenana Ice Classic. The Parks Highway is accessible by road from Anchorage or Fairbanks. You can also join a tour that drives along the highway and stops at various attractions. Next stop, the Inside Passage. This is a coastal route that connects Southeast Alaska with British Columbia and Washington State. You can cruise along this spectacular route and see fjords, islands, glaciers, rainforests, and wildlife along the way. You can also visit places like Ketchikan, Wrangell, Petersburg, Sitka, Juneau, Skagway, Haines, Glacier Bay National Park and Preserve, and Tracy Arm Fjord. The Inside Passage is only accessible by water from other parts of Alaska or Canada. You can also join a cruise that sails along the passage and stops at various ports. Continuing to the Arctic Circle. This is a geographic line that marks the northernmost point where the sun does not set on summer solstice and does not rise on winter solstice. You can fly or drive to this remote area and see tundra, permafrost, boreal forest, and wildlife along the way. You can also visit places like Coldfoot, Wiseman, Anaktivuk Pass, and Barrow. The Arctic Circle is accessible by air or road from Fairbanks or other parts of Alaska. You can also join a tour that flies or drives to the Arctic Circle and stops at various attractions. Well, that's it for my Alaska adventure. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed living it. Alaska is truly a magical place that has something for everyone. If you ever get a chance to visit, don't hesitate. You won't regret it. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe to my channel for more travel videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time.